So we are already 1 minute over. I think that we can just probably start soon. Right, Alex?
I do think so. So already
Yeah, let's.
a lot of people in.
Yeah. So let's do it. Let's get into it. And so, hi, everyone. My name is Batti, and I come from the company OneX Internet. I'm the CEO and co-founder. And today with me is Alexander Reisenauer. And Alex, where are you located now?
So hi, my name is Alex. I'm Director of Global Digital Marketing at Schwabe Group, and we are located in Germany, in Karlsruhe, where our headquarters is. But obviously, in the current situation, we're all working from home. So you can have a sneak peek of our guest room here.
And what is really, really nice is that Alex and I, now we've been working together. I think that OneX started to work in this project in 2020. It was probably around this time that we got into contact, Alex. And
Yeah,
we have
been in
never,
contact.
yeah, one year now.
It's a bit more than a year, but I think we had the first call in the end of September. Then I was on parental leave for a couple of weeks, and yeah, it's more or less a year.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is we've done a lot of things that we're going to tell you about today, but we have never actually met in person. So I'm still like really wondering, like, so I always have to ask this question. So how tall are you actually, Alex?
I hope we will find out soon. So
Yes. Okay. So yes, that is actually the topic for today is about the mutual project that we have at OneX and Schwabe. And the title is How to Successfully Launch a Multi-Website Platform for a Leading Pharmaceutical Company, being Schwabe, in only 3 months. And the speed of the technology part and the implementation was extreme. We pulled this through in a couple of months, of course, with the hard work of very many people involved, both on our side and on Alex's side and at Acquia's side. So we are going to be going into, we really want to have this interactive in the sense of that if you have questions, please feel free to put it into the chat here, because we want to be able to answer your questions, and we made sure that we will also leave room in the end to answer even more questions. So let's start. Like I told you before, I come from a company, founded a company in 2011, 13. We were around that time called OneX Internet, and we are a full service digital agency. We do development of web solutions based on Drupal and React, and we basically do the full circle, like everything that is included. And when we are not working on our projects, we are hanging out on Zoom or on Google Meet at the volcano in Iceland. No, this is a colleague of mine who is working from our office in Iceland. And there is actually an active volcano happening there. So if you have the chance, little advertisement for Iceland, if you have the chance to go over there, check it out. So Alex, I think you were also in Iceland a couple of years ago, right?
it was a couple of years ago, but I definitely want to go there again.
Yeah, I think maybe we can do the same as Hrannar here on the photo is doing. So we are a team of 60 people, and I told you before that we have an office in Reykjavik, which was the photo that we saw, but we also have an office here in Frankfurt, where I am sitting at the moment. We have an office in Berlin and then also in Spain. And apart from that, in these times that we have today, people, of course, just sit around Europe, and we have over 18 different languages and passports. So we speak broken English at our company. That's what we call it, because very few of us actually have English as a native language. But we are proud of our team, and we try to, meet and have fun in times that makes that possible, which obviously has not been in the last 18 months, but maybe it's going to be changing now soon, Alex, and we can meet hopefully either in Karlsruhe or here in Frankfurt. But we also have here with us Alex. So do you want to tell us something about the company Schwabe Group?
Of course. So as already mentioned, I'm the Director of Global Digital Marketing at Schwabe Group, and I'm with the company since more than 7 years now. So for the first 5 years, I was responsible for the German online team and the key account management for online pharmacies in Germany. And since 2019, I'm in this global role. We are a small team of 3 people. Well, our main responsibility is that we are acting like internal consultants for the countries. So we have subsidiaries in 16 countries, and we are more or less the internal consultants for the digital teams there or the marketing teams whenever they have questions regarding digital marketing. And we are also driving projects to establish a common marketing technology stack. And that's something we can share today. So with the web content management system, which is more or less our biggest project in the last 12 months, let's say. To give you a brief introduction of Schwabe Group, because I'm sure most of you haven't heard of Schwabe as a brand. So Dr. Wilmers Schwabe, which is the parent company of Schwabe Group, is one of the oldest pharmaceutical companies in Europe. We have a company history dating back over 150 years. And today we are active on all 5 continents with affiliate companies in pharmaceutical and healthcare business. And all those companies focus on plants as a basis for all their products. So what you can see on the left is just 3 products that are really well known, at least in Germany and other European countries like Tebonin, Lasea, or Umcaloabo, which is called Caloba in some countries in Europe. And what I really want to point out about Schwabe is that we are still a family-owned business. So that's something that really makes us special in this pharmaceutical market, I think. We have Olaf Schwabe as our CEO, who represents the 5th generation of the family. Yeah.
Wow.
So maybe we can. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about so this brand, which is there on the side, and it is a little bit brown. I still you at some point you told me that I could say Umka because I can't. So you really say Kaloapo for this product in other countries because there's no way to say this word, right?
So the international name is Caloba, but in some countries like Germany and Switzerland, it's called Umcaloabo, which is quite difficult for most people to pronounce, to be honest.
And maybe there's somebody here watching that remembers this. Was it not a radio spot or something about presenting this product that nobody can actually say what the name is, right?
Yeah, there's a radio spot on air every winter season, at least in Germany, and I think it's quite well known, even if the people are not really able to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah. So this is also that product is extremely good when you have when you have Husten, which is maybe coughing.
Cold, yeah.
Nice. Hey, that's great. So let's dive into. I hope that you understand what this is about. So we have very many products that needs to be presented in very many different markets. And what is, of course, the biggest challenge, Alex, is that a product like Umka has an allowance to be presented in a certain way in Germany, but needs to be presented differently in Switzerland based on all kinds of regulations and rules, correct?
Yeah, we have different regulations and legal restrictions. You can't say the same things about a product in different countries. So it's really restricted. You have to be really sure what you're allowed to say about a product. And since all those affiliate companies are working more or less for their own business and their own success, it's not that we are really managing the brands from a headquarter perspective like other, let's say, global players who have a strong headquarter and who are rolling out their campaigns in the different markets from the headquarter. So we have different campaigns in every country, different brand strategies in the countries, and that makes it quite difficult, let's say.
And that is why there was a challenge, and that's how we at least got to know each other, because there was a certain time or point at time where I think that, you just said like, we can't go forward like this if we want to keep up with the speed and with all the regulations of like also how web should be presented, consent management, which is one of our favorite topic in general, web tracking, accessibility, and so on. So how it was before we actually started to work on the project, there were many different CMSs running, around the whole organization, correct?
Yeah, when we had a look at our web properties on a global scale in 2020, it was well, it was like a mess, to be honest, because we had a lot of different agencies involved, a lot of different content management systems. We had a lot of different agencies per country, even, which means when you were talking to somebody from a certain country and you knew the agency that was responsible for the product website of one brand, then this agency wasn't necessarily responsible for the product website of another brand in the same country. And this was quite difficult if we wanted to launch new features or communicate something on a global scale. And this inconsistency was really a challenge for us. And in addition, we didn't have much exchange between the countries. So the teams were working on their own. They didn't have a lot of knowledge transfer, to be honest, across countries. And yeah, the situation when it came to security and compliance was also quite difficult to handle for the teams in the local markets, to be honest, because when you're working with a lot of different content management platforms, you need good processes to make sure that you have all the security updates in place, etc. And it didn't really scale, not even in the countries, but of course, if you look at a global level, there was not really a scaling effect. So
And
that was the
and
major
how did
challenge.
and how does this work like in a case like this? Now you are a large organizations with all these different stakeholders and of course a lot of internal, discussions happening, and how long is the process of like saying, hey, let's now do something about it, because what we are going to be talking about today, and we are going to show you also like the demo and how we build that up, but we are of course only going to be talking about the process of like, something was already there, the decision had been made, the buy-in from all the people inside of Schwabe, you had already had that design agency doing all the work for the, taking all the design things and make it a little bit more, consolidated. So this topic here from 2021, to be able to be fast, have a fast time to market, to be able to have continuous development and learn from other features, get that into the whole product and so on, and have a cost saving. How long is this process inside of a company like yours? Are we talking about a year of discussion or 6 months or 5 years?
I would say that the whole process was about a year. To be honest, it was a lot of politics in the beginning. A lot of people in different countries, they were totally aware that we have to change something and that this can't be the way we go on for the future. And but I think they didn't really know how to start. And there was not that single country that said, oh, we are piloting and we will build a content management platform, let's say, for all countries. Of course, there have been some initiatives where countries started to share what they already had and others tried to adopt it. But this was not really on a global scale, and it was just from time to time for specific projects. And
So if you are like in the audience and you're listening and you're actually a global marketing director where you're like, having this, I'm thinking about the emoji with the brain. There is this like, oh, how can I get handle, how can I get in control? Having something in a company like this, traditional family-owned company, really large on our market here in Germany, it's about a process probably at least of a year just to get like this basic thinking conversations happening to be able to go to the scale of saying like, okay, now we're going to find a vendor to take this forward?
Well, to be honest, for some people in the digital teams in the local markets, it was quite difficult to imagine that someone from headquarter will implement a platform and that they have to use it in the end. So because until that day, they were completely responsible for everything. They decided which platform they wanted to use for which project, for example. And so it's a lot of politics and a lot of you need a lot of time to really explain to people what you're aiming for, and that this is not the headquarter taking over control over everything. So we really wanted to support the countries, and this I think that was the most important message to make clear, that this is something to support the countries, to allow them to have extremely fast time to market, to cut the costs, to have knowledge sharing, to be able to really reuse things that were developed in another country, for example. So we can show this later on. So every feature that we are developing now is rolled out automatically for all the other websites as well. So we don't develop the same features in 12 countries anymore. And I think when this was clear, then they were really open for the idea.
Yeah. And I think, like, so let's just dive maybe in there. So what then happened is that, okay, we now have this and we create a vision, and the vision was created by you and your team. Just Schwabe Group new web CMS platform offers a consistent brand and user experience based on a flexible, scalable, and expandable system. It's a big goal. And having a modular template approach would leave enough space to cover the individuality of each brand. And I think that this is something we've talked a lot about, Alex, that of course the brands say, like, we still want to be individual. We don't want to just, that's what probably most of the people are scared of in the beginning. They say, like, oh, there's going to be a system that we all need to share and have the same. I don't want to look like my product is completely different from Lasea product.
Yeah, of course.
So developing these individual brand templates, is something that, like, gives you the high quality of the web presence that you have in all the countries. And the goal, of course, to increase awareness and visibility. So the goal here is not to sell any products online, because these products are sold in Germany in pharmacies.
Yeah, that's something you have to know, that in Europe, at least, we are not allowed to sell our products, or at least the pharmaceuticals directly to the consumer. And usually we need pharmacies as a point of sale, or even doctors if a prescription is needed. So
what is really nice, Alex, is that, when you came to us, this was already there. So for us as a vendor going to be working on this, like seeing something like this, we were like, I remember the thinking, like, hey, you really know what you're going to be doing, and you really have something in front of you. So I think this is extremely important to work on this. And I know that we were chatting yesterday during the Pfizer keynote, which was like amazing to see how they are doing their internal branding of their own platform by creating videos and stuff like this. And I hope that we can also get into that phase at some point too. And so therefore, like, building a vision for this, this is something more than just like, hey, we're going to do it. It's like there's thoughtful process behind it. So, which leaves us to the, okay, now we know everything, like what was going to be happening, but how was this actually accomplished? And for us at OneX, when you came, this screamed for being a multi-site CMS solution. So for us, that was like obviously you had already said that you preferred open source, and Drupal was one of a technology that you liked, right?
Yeah,
so you did some evaluation of Drupal?
It was more or less pre-selected by us, but of course we needed some kind of sparring with you to really figure out if Drupal is the right fit to all our requirements in the end.
And is
And it
it?
turned out it is.
Good. So that's something for another topic, I think, Alex, too. Also, actually, I think there's many agency leaders also listening to this now, probably. And for us, it is always important to understand also, like, why Drupal? What is it that made Drupal? Is there something one that comes on your head of like, this is the reason why Drupal actually made sense? Is it because it is open source, or is it because it has a strong position on the market, or is it because the really large pharmaceutical companies are using Drupal?
In the end, to be honest, it was a mix of all of this. We had a look at a lot of different content management platforms and offerings out there. And to be honest, we like the idea of having an open source system and having the flexibility to work with different agencies in the end. Because to be honest, in the end, you never know if the agency you're picking in the first place is the agency that really fits to you in the long run. And yeah, we had the feeling that Drupal is offering a lot of features when it comes to multi-site management, multi-language support, etc. And yeah, I think
So what we actually like, what also happened in the process is that this had to happen pretty quickly, because there were sites in Switzerland and Belgium that had to go up and be up and running in 3 months after we basically signed the contract. So we also then contacted Acquia, and Acquia provides this site factory solution that was also just a perfect fit. And I think that that's something that we've been seeing in the whole phase, is that the reason why we can actually be quick today is because we have built something that is, modular, it's scalable, it's on a platform that actually can handle that you are actually in charge. You don't even need to call us if you're going, I don't even know. I think I was asking you yesterday, like, Alex, what sites do we actually have live? And you were like, oh, this one and this one and this one. And I'm like, wow, we didn't even know, not necessarily. And that's positive thing for a company like yours, I think. So let's look at the main features of the platform. So we at OneX, we've of course been building Drupal solutions for a very long time. So there is this certain standard things that we put into all of the basic Drupal systems. That's probably also why Alex, why your team also decided to work with us, because I think we showed you just a demo of like our Drupal out of the box that actually has like a lot of the things that you had on your list, which is like, easy to use editorial experience. The people that are going to be using it, they're used to other systems, and they maybe even are in love with their other CMS system. Ours needs to be top notch. It needs to be like flexible in terms of being, with content. You need to be able to create different types of sites. Design system, of course, have a mutual design system, so we can actually build something that gets launched on all sites. Search and APIs, multilingual was a topic. I go down here to data protections, GDPR, consent manager, which is something that we need to comply to here in Europe. Consolidated tracking, also like Alex, understanding not just what the traffic is of individual site, but also just in the whole, right? How can I actually understand my, whole traffic that I'm getting in and out every day, right?
That's really important. And if you have standardized web tracking, of course, this really helps you to have benchmarks, internal benchmarks, where countries can share their best cases, and you can see which country is upfront, which is maybe a bit behind, and then you can think about how can, let's say, a smaller country adapt things that work great in other countries, for example. So they don't have to invent everything by themselves, and they can more or less copy and paste the best things to and adapt it to their markets, which also leads to really fast time to market and
and what is also
in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And also like this importance of like having the editors of the platform actually in focus. making sure that Drupal is so simple that every single click has been optimized, and because that removes a lot of like that people don't get, as soon as people get annoyed, and especially if they were against the whole idea in the beginning, they are really quick in saying like, oh no, this doesn't work. So I think like, every single click being optimized in the backend is extremely important. And of course, this is a photo, but we will show you the system just in a minute. But thank you to the Gin people who have been, developing that forward, because we've been using the Gin theme here in the backend, and it's working extremely nice. And again, if you have any questions, or if you want to put in some chat or say hi or something, feel free to use the chat and the Q&A. And we can do that on the fly. You can multitask, hopefully. The design system was also set up in a storybook, where actually all of the people and the editors too, and those who are working every day with the system, they can also look a little bit on a different way on the whole elements that are available in the CMS platform. So you can actually go in there and say, wow, there is actually tabs that I can use. Oh, how do they look like? So we're going to show you also a demo of this just in a minute.
This is also important when you think of working with other agencies as well. So you have agencies per brand for the whole brand strategy and look and feel for the brands. And of course, they want to talk to the brand managers and give them an advice when it comes to building a new website, etc. And this design system really ensures that everything fits together in the end, and that they don't come out with layouts that have nothing to do with our template system. So this is pretty important, to be honest.
And how we just we didn't want to go into any details of the technical solution, how we do it in that sense, but I see that Tamas is, for example, here listening in, and some other from our team at OneX, and this was all built with web components. So every single component that is built for all of the Schwabe properties, they actually can be reused, not just for their Drupal things, but wherever they are also doing. So if they are building some other apps or something like this, so we really made sure that you have something, but which maybe you don't need it now, but who knows what you need in 2 years from now. So that was all built with web components. Really, really nice solution here, technically speaking. So you just a little bit talked about it. If we look at here, so the wording that we are also using is also something that maybe technically not correct or something like that, but we need to have a wording that the user understands and that the market understands. So every single product or a brand has its own template. That means if we look at the right side here, there is the general header variant, which is the top one here where you say like logo. But then you go down and then you actually see that the colors, they change. The logo, of course, changes depending on what brand you're talking about. And even like for some brands, they can have their own little elements if they need, and they can have individual things. But of course, every time a brand comes and says like, oh, I really would like to have this, Alex, they call you and they say like that they think that making an element like this one here is really smart. So what do you say? You start to tell them like, either we have it or you say, or you then maybe need to convince them if that's a good idea or not, right?
Yeah, if we already have it, then it's easy. But in the other case, sometimes there might be some discussions whether an element is really useful, also on a global scale, also for other markets, for example. And of course, we need to have an overview of all the requirements from different markets, because in most cases, we have more or less similar requirements with those little things that don't really match. And then it's about communication with the different countries, the different contact persons and brand managers to really find out which is the way that we can go and that it fits for everyone in the end. Yeah. So that we don't build whatever element we need in 3 different ways. And we are more or less coming together and decide which is the way to go for all brands in the future.
Yeah,
so
and this is the
also
great
some politics.
Yeah, and this is the great thing is like, of course, like each brand can then actually make their own little adjustment to it, either with the colors or with some kind of a change to it. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. We're also going to show you just the process. So we're going to jump through this really quickly, but we are using here Acquia Cloud Site Factory, and what it actually does. And now we have to be a little bit, we of course say, and Acquia Cloud Site Factory enables a go live within 15 minutes. So of course, no website is going live within 15 minutes because we all need to do the content. But we are going to demo it, how or show you a little bit how this is done. But actually, Alex, if a company or a brand calls you, you just go into the Acquia Cloud Site Factory, right? And you press this button, create new site, you decide on the domain, and voila, we go, right?
Yeah, it's 2 to 3 clicks, to be honest. Maybe you have to add new users as well, but that's it in the end. Then you have to wait for around about 10 minutes, and then the website is there.
Yeah, and then you can actually hand that over to your editors at the other side and say like, hey, this is how you can work on it. And of course, like with a little bit of teaching that, but the platform should be easy enough to actually just being able to use it. So you also have the user administration via your Active Directory. So people can actually, so there's no like user accounts that you need to create on every single page. You can do that and manage that all through the Site Factory, right?
To be honest, we are still working on the Active Directory integration, but this will be the case in the future.
Yeah.
Right now, we have to manage the users ourselves,
but you manage them those centrally in the Site Factory.
It can be managed in the Acquia Cloud Site Factory, and so it's quite easy. You add the user once, and then you define the access to the specific projects. Exactly. Or to all the projects in a specific country, for example. So this is really, really easy, and also the other way around. So if someone has to be logged out and shouldn't have access anymore to the website, to the backends, then this is done within a couple of seconds. And
if you think now back, maybe 2 years ago, if somebody who had been in the company for 5 years, 6 years, and had access to like tens of portals that you don't even know that exist, there is no way to be able to manage that. So
yeah, that was really, really tough to make sure that the user management is not having a lot of old users.
Yeah, exactly. So this is just like a small photo of, so when we talk about the platform that Alex and that Schwabe has now, like this is your product, which is the core CMS. So every single time that you go into the Site Factory, you just press the button, create a new site, then actually there will exist like a dev and test and live version of that site where people can also play and try out, and then of course the live site just goes live. But if we have security updates or something like that, it's all done through the central CMS core system. So maybe let's look at a couple of, time flies. It's amazing. Like, we have here Lasea CH. This is, so for everyone just out there, just you can check it out. Lasea CH and umkaloabo.ch. And we counted it yesterday. We at least have probably 10 more that are already live, or 8 to 10 in total. Which is, I think our first, the first one went live, I think, in March, right?
At the end of March, it was finished, and the go live was in the first week of April, I think.
Yeah, and what is actually more important for people to understand, it's not like that. We were talking about it yesterday when you say, like, Pfizer creates all these videos and there's all these people involved. But actually with Schwabe, or the global marketing, it's you and Ann-Christine, right?
Yeah, we are 2 people working on this project. So we are 3 people in total in global digital marketing. So it's a small team.
Yeah, so I think like, so the speed of like being able to create 10 pages within a couple of months only with the team of your size. I think, if you put that into perspective, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And let's then look at it. Let's try to look at it as much as we can. I opened up, but our example is this. A brand calls you, Alex, and says like, hey, I need a new website because my website is broken, or we have a new brand in this market. So there are three things, or there's actually two things that you need to do. So the number one thing is that you, of course, need to go to the hosting platform, which is on Acquia, and create the website. So after that, then what do you do then? Then you go into the CMS, and we can show you a little bit how it is, but you go into the CMS, and then you change
the logo, the color scheme, and that's it, more or less. Then we hand over to the editors. Of course, we can teach them how to edit the content, etc., and we will show them how to add the content for the first pages. But basically, as soon as the color schemes, etc., is set, then the editors start to work and fill in their content. So in this case,
nice. So in this case, this is just the site factory. So here you're just looking at, we are looking at the sites that we have already in this group, which is Switzerland.
Yeah.
Here are all the users on the right side, and here's this button up here. So you go into the right group, which would be either Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, and then you press this button here.
There's this create a new site button. Then you type in your domain or project name, and then press on create site again, and that's it. So then you have to wait for a couple of minutes, around about 10 minutes or so.
So what happens then is that then you basically, you can, through Acquia Site Factory, you can just log in immediately through the, there. And then you just get something like this. You just, either you can have it with or without content, but like at the moment we are just looking at the demo site. So what we also created was a demo site, of course, just to like be able to show people what and how they can do things, right? So you go in here. So now we are actually in step 2. So the site is already there. 10 minutes, 15 minutes have passed. And that would have been too long for this talk here. And then you go here into the appearance, which is here. And you go to the overview here. You find the Schwabe-based default theme. You go into settings, and it's here that you can just choose then the brand from the design system, correct?
Yeah.
So at the moment, I don't know how many brands do we have in here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15 probably, and we are adding. Yeah, we are always adding something to it, and then there's like also specialties in every single market for every single brand, and then you can also choose here footer background color, but this is basically it, right?
That's basically
and then you just have your site. So now I'm of course logged in as an admin. So everybody here who knows Drupal, of course you wouldn't be seeing all these things there except you're an admin. So if you are an editor, you can only have very limited things. So we have a lot of talks that we have had at OneX, especially at DrupalCon, about front-end editing, which is something that we have been, enabling in our Drupal contribution. So we've been working on like making it extremely simple for the editor to work on content and change something. If I want to maybe just put this into a smaller V here and I save it, I don't have to go into the site and so on. So like all these little things. But what we also then created, or Alex, you did together with like the people on our site, there was these kitchen sink pages. And the kitchen sink pages are actually then just showing all the elements for like, so you can really like put that into your head and you can see how it is configured on the back, right?
Yeah. Well, when we started with the kitchen sink, this was more or less our sandbox for the developers and for us to really test all the modules and paragraphs, etc. And now we are working on a let's say extended version of it, where we can really show the different paragraphs what you have seen at the top.
Maybe this one here.
Yeah, so we can show the different teaser versions that you can use with pictures, without pictures, with different background colors, etc. And this really helps an editor to see how many possibilities are there to edit every specific paragraph or every specific module. And what you can see here is with the different background colors, with the different color schemes from the brands and the different modules that we have. So at the end, we really make sure that no website looks like the other. So this really helps in the discussions with the brand managers, because they all want the individuality of their brand to be in focus. And we really ensure that every brand has the own look and feel, and that we don't necessarily make it too narrow for the editors to stick to the basic template in the end.
Exactly. So if I go in here and I just look at the, if I go and look at it from this side, then of course, it's a little bit more difficult to edit it. But here, of course, I have my paragraphs. So we are using paragraphs, and here, like, everything has been optimized in a way that it is extremely simple for you to just, imagine what this should be in the preview, what should be in the header, and what should be in the content area. So every single click here has been optimized, and then you see here everything that you actually can add to it. So there is a lot of features that we have put in, and all of this was just done in, of course, we are now, after launch, we are working as, the team is still on it, always adding something to it, fine-tuning it, making sure that, sometimes we are making changes and taking something out and gets outdated, and then it gets removed at some point. So everything here was made to be as simple as possible, that we can just like enable the editor as much as we can. And if we look at these things here, we can also go and we can look at the design system, because the design system is then also working the same way. So what we saw in the demo, we had enabled the Umka brand. But of course, like all the other brands, so if we enable the Umka brand, this brown color is the color that you actually have for this text highlight paragraph. So if you add the text highlight paragraph, you can look at that one if you go a little bit more down here. And this is something that is really a working process for us, because this has happened all so fast. So we are just working on together with Alex to make these sites just even much better, and like maybe create some videos of helping people to understand it, because now there's still like a lot of just content, because we are playing around. We are ourselves always doing our tests here as well. So if you go again into the site, the design system, you can just choose here. And if you are, for example, from the brand Lasea, you can then really look into the design system. How does this look like when I have, like, how do the products look like in my brand color or in my brand template? So everything is in here, and this is a really nice thing to just go through and work through, because it's simple to understand, and in many cases like easier to understand than actually going through the system and pressing the buttons and trying it out. So we have a question here, if we'd use the group module for the brands, and the answer is no. The brands are just individual templates, and depending on how you actually, that was a little custom module that was created to be able to select the brand here, and then we just render the different type of CSS and templates for depending on the brand. So the answer is no, Alina, we did not use the group module, as these are all just individual sites. And time flies. And of course, like, we would love to show more. We are going to jump over to the hallway track, or maybe, at least for a couple of minutes, to the hallway track 1. But this is what we wanted to show you. And of course, like, we are not stopping, because we are at the moment just adding a new site after site. There's being added into it new features. We are building a new corporate template, and this is just an ongoing process. That's just, a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And maybe next time, Alex, we can sit next to each other and maybe open up a glass of wine or beer or have a good water.
Yeah, that would be great.
When we do a session like this. Yeah. Feel free, because I know that I'm precious of time. We are going to run over to the hallway track 1. I potentially need to go to a Drupal Association talk as well, but we would like to maybe hear from you there. And I encourage also, like, I see Tamas or Risto or Hatta from our OneX team to come there. So hallway track 1, come over there. And thank you, Alex, for joining us.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
See you in hallway track 1.
Yep.
Bye.
And in Karlsruhe. Bye.